Hello and welcome to a special edition of Tyler Matters. I'm Caroline Sanchez, Senior PR Specialist for the City of Tyler. And today, I've invited Clayton Nicolardi. He is our Environmental Compliance Engineer with the Tyler Water Utilities to help answer some of the questions that we've been hearing, dispel some of the rumors that we've been hearing about water quality here in Tyler. Welcome, Clayton. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I wrote the questions here because I don't want to miss a thing. So if you don't mind, I'm going to be looking at some of my, my questions. First of all, let's start with the basics, and I'm going to ask you to answer them in layman's terms because I'm not a chemist, so I don't know anything about water processing or anything like that. And our audiences, some of them are as novice about it as I am. But I'm going to ask you some questions and just discuss, in your own words that we can easily understand what is going on and why we're receiving some of these notices, okay?
Okay, I'll do my best.
Okay, the first question is, of course, it's an easy one. Where does Tyler get its drinking water? What is the source of that?
Tyler Water Utilities has two surface water treatment plants. We have the Golden Road Water Treatment Plant, which treats and processes water pumped from Lake Tyler East. And we also have the Lake Palestine Surface Water Treatment Plant, which treats and processes water that is pumped from Lake Palestine. We also have 11 deep water wells that pump water from the Crizo-Wilcox Formation.
Okay.
This water is pumped to each plant. Those plants treat and process the water. Once we remove all the waterborne pathogens associated with raw water from the lakes, we then distribute that water through high service pumps, and that goes into our distribution system.
Okay. Distribution system, what do you mean by the distribution system?
The distribution system is a network of water lines. And those water lines can be anywhere from 2 inches in size up to 48 inches in some of our larger water lines. But those are that's basically the arterial network that delivers the water to our residential customers as well as our commercial customers.
And then I know I've gotten 2 water notices with regards to haloacetic acids. What exactly is haloacetic acids?
Haloacetic acids are disinfection byproducts. When we disinfect the water to remove waterborne pathogens, bacteria, and viruses, when that disinfectant meets or reacts with natural occurring organics in the water, it forms these disinfection byproducts.
Okay, when you're talking about organics in the water, what does organics mean?
Organic material is carbon-based, and so it can be anything from decaying plant material, animal waste, things of that nature.
Okay, so like when we had that long period of drought and then all that stuff dies and then we get heavy rains or whatever, and then so we have an influx of a lot of decaying material in our water source then. So those make up organics.
Yes,
basically.
Exactly. We had a 5 to 6 year drought in the state of Texas. And during that period of drought, you have a lot of dying, plants and trees and things of that nature. And when they die, they decompose slowly over time.
Okay.
So we came out of that 5 or 6 year drought in less than a month, and in the May of last year, and all those organics then washed themselves into the source water, and those materials have to be broken down by natural processes, such as bacteria that break those materials down over time. And so we had a large influx of organics into Lake Palestine and Lake Tyler during those rain events.
And then why do we have to use disinfection byproducts?
We have to use disinfectants. We're required to disinfect our water by the EPA and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. We have to disinfect water to remove harmful waterborne pathogens, such as bacteria, viruses, and waterborne pathogens that can cause serious acute illnesses.
Okay. Okay. And then tell me, why were those notices sent out, and when do you send out those notices?
Tyler Water Utilities is governed by the Environmental Protection Agency as well as the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. They set the standards and establish the standards for drinking water. They require that Tyler Water Utilities take multiple samples every day, monitoring the quality of our drinking water. If at any time Tyler Water Utilities gets a sample that is outside of the norm or is above a maximum contaminant level, we have so many days to notify our customer. Each notice, depending on its severity, some require notice within 30 days, some within 90 days. But Tyler Water Utilities is required to notify their customers should there be anything out of the norm or levels that are above the maximum contaminant level. In addition to the many samples that the regulatory authorities require that Tyler Water Utilities take, our operators also take process control readings of water quality throughout the day. And they do this so that they can make process adjustments. Should they see a reading that's outside of the norm or we exceed a maximum contaminant level, those operators need to be able to make a decision, an informed decision based on looking at data points to make those treatment adjustments at the plants. And so they're continuously looking at, some of this data is taken every 15 minutes, some of it's taken every 2 hours. Now, with respect to disinfection byproduct samples, those samples are actually scheduled by the TCEQ. Tyler Water Utilities does not have control over when those samples are taken. Again, those samples are taken quarterly. So the TCEQ sets a schedule. They use a third-party contractor, a laboratory that has been approved through the TCEQ, and that third-party contractor laboratory collects the samples, and then they have those samples analyzed in an approved laboratory. They then submit those samples to Tyler Water Utilities when they become available. Now we have, for disinfection byproduct samples, we have 8 locations that are distributed throughout the city of Tyler. And the reason why we have 8, those are spread out throughout our distribution so that we can get a representative sampling of our distribution. We wouldn't want 8 of those to be in one quadrant. Say if Tyler was broken up into 4 quadrants, we wouldn't want all those 8 to be in one quadrant. We want to evaluate and test the water throughout our distribution system so that we can make sure that all our customers are safe. The samples that are collected by the state contract laboratory, when those results come in, they're actually posted on the Texas Drinking Water Watch website. That website has all the information on public water supplies throughout the state of Texas. Our customers can get on that website and get a snapshot of how the city of Tyler is doing with respect to compliance with public drinking water requirements. And those are uploaded by the TCEQ. The city does not upload those samples, but we also use that website ourselves, Tyler Water Utilities, so that we can keep track of sample results as well. Sometimes there's situations where water systems must collect more sample data than what's required by the regulatory authorities. And the reason why that is because sometimes if we see a reading that's out of the norm, such as our haloacetic acids, the city of Tyler hired a third-party auditor, Improtech, Hibbs and Taub, to to come out and evaluate our water system. And one of the recommendations they made for us to combat these disinfection byproducts and to decrease their levels in our system was that we would take more samples than just once a quarter. We've been, since November of this past year, we've been collecting these data points every 2 weeks rather than the once a quarter that's required by the state. And the reason why we've done that is we want to see whether those treatment adjustments that we've made at our treatment facilities are actually making a difference. We want to see those numbers go down, and they have. They've declined since that Q2 of 2015 where we had that high level of haloacetic acids. We've seen the numbers come down. And so collecting more data, taking more data points allows us to make more educated treatment adjustments.
And are all the results well below the maximum contaminant level now?
Yes, the levels are well below the maximum contaminant level now. But again, remember that we will continue to notify our customers until that rolling average is under the maximum contaminant level. Even though those levels on the one-time readings are below the maximum contaminant level, that doesn't mean that we can tell our customers at this time we're in compliance. We have to wait until that Q2 rolls out of the average.
Okay. And then if customers want to know more information about water, or just basic information, what do you recommend they should do?
There's many good peer-reviewed articles and material that you can find online. However, I would warn those that not everything we read on the internet is accurate. However, there's great sites that you can go to. American Water Works Association is pretty much the gold standard when it comes to the treatment of drinking water. And there is just a plethora of information that can be found online through the American Water Works Association. Also, you can find a lot of information on the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality's website. The EPA also has a website where you can find many materials on drinking water standards, and to get just a little snapshot of what we have to do on a day-to-day basis to ensure that your water is safe to drink. We received our first notice of violation for haloacetic acids in Q3 of 2015. The city received a notice of violation letter that we had exceeded the maximum contaminant level. We then were required to submit notice to our customers, and we did that within the time allotted that the TCEQ allotted us to do so. The customer should be ready to receive the third notice for disinfection byproducts.
We're going to get a third notice coming up soon?
Yes, we will get a third. We will be sending a third notice to our customers, and that's going to be submitted direct mail, and that will go out before March 9th of next month.
I thought everything was better now, so why are we receiving a third notice?
Well, Caroline, things are better now. The water sources such as Lake Palestine and Lake Tyler are starting to stabilize, and water quality is improving there. Our disinfection byproducts have been on a downward trend and are well below the maximum contaminant level. However, the way that the EPA and TCEQ regulate byproducts such as haloacetic acids is on a rolling annual average. Therefore, some of the high readings we've got in Q2 of 2015, those have to roll out of the average before we're going to be under the maximum contaminant level.
Okay.
For those.
That might be something that we'll illustrate. I did bring an easel and a big notepad, so that way we can explain what a running average is, because that can get a little bit confusing, because the samples are good now, but it's because of some kind of an averaging system that the TCEQ uses that we're still not in compliance per se. Pretty cool. We've got an easel now. All right. So explain this locational running annual average.
Okay, I think it's first important for us to understand what a quarter consists of.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and explain. So quarter one consists of the months January, February, March.
Okay.
Quarter two is represented by April, May, June.
Okay.
Quarter three is represented by July, August, September, and quarter four is represented by October, November, and December. And so that makes up 4 quarters of the year. And that's
Okay.
how the sampling is broken down. Sampling is done each quarter.
Okay. And then walk us through how TCEQ figures out what the average is and what we're basically dinged on, or when we exceed our maximum contaminant level. Okay.
Each sampling period, which is each quarter, the TCEQ takes an average
Okay.
of the most recent 4 quarters. So once those sample results come in for that particular quarter that's just taken, then they look at those sample results in the 3 previous quarters, and they average those, and that's what we call a rolling annual average.
Okay. Can you demonstrate how we're using exact numbers? I've written some exact test results on that card right there. So explain how TCEQ gets what is reported to them.
Okay, so we'll go back in time prior to us exceeding the maximum contaminant level and show you a little bit of how they determine these rolling averages.
Okay.
So we'll start with quarter 3 of 2014. Our reading for haloacetic acids is 35.5 ppb.
Okay. And what is ppb?
That's parts per billion.
Parts per billion. Okay.
In quarter 4 of that same year, or 2014, our haloacetic acids were 12.6 parts per billion.
Okay.
All right. Quarter 1 of 2015, our haloacetic acids were 18 parts per billion.
Okay.
And quarter 2 of that same year, 2015, the reading was 126 parts per billion.
Okay. What the heck happened right there?
These samples were taken in May of 2015, and as we've discussed earlier, the significant rainfall that we had coming out of that 5 or 6 year drought was in May.
Okay.
And we basically filled up most of the lakes in the state of Texas in less than a month with all that rain. This is when the significant organics washed in to our water sources, such as Lake Palestine and Lake Tyler East. And so this is where we get the significant increase.
When the heavy rains came, and it basically the rain, because it was so much and so heavy, it just washes things into the rivers, and which flow into our water source, basically, Lake Palestine or Lake Tyler.
Yes.
So, okay.
And even in addition to that, not necessarily just what's washing into the watershed itself from the watershed area, but it's also the fact that for lengthy periods of time when you have low sunlight conditions, because you have sporadic rain events, you have rain events that are close together and are spread out over a long period of time, then those things such as algae and organisms that live within the watershed or the water source themselves, they can't live without that sunlight. So a lot of that material dies. A lot of those
Okay.
organisms die, and then the natural process of them breaking down, that they're
Okay.
made up of carbon or they're organic material.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
also a source of these
Okay.
organics.
Okay, so it's basically this is, I guess, where they get the term a running annual average, because it's the latter parts of the year to the beginning parts of last year, so it goes in order.
Exactly. And you'll notice that these are contiguous quarters. Therefore,
Okay.
so you start with quarter 3, which again is January or July, August, and September. And then your next one in line is quarter 4 of 2014, which is
Okay.
October, November, December.
Okay.
And then we kind of start off as quarter 1 in January. And so what the state does is once this sample was collected, okay, for quarter 2, then the average consists of the average of those 4 readings,
Okay.
which gave us an average that is considered average equals 48.03 parts per billion, which is below the MCL for haloacetic acids. The MCL for a running average for haloacetic acids, that's HA5, equals 60 parts per billion. So you can see there we were still below, even though we had this significantly high reading in
Okay.
quarter 2 of 2015.
So we would not have gotten a notice, because even though this was high, we still, because it's based on a running average, we still fell below the maximum contaminant level for haloacetic acid.
That's correct, because in these
Okay.
quarters, these 3 other quarters that were averaged in to that rolling average were significantly lower.
Okay.
So those
Okay.
averaged together, even though we got this high reading, we're still below the MCL.
Okay. Okay.
And these numbers are precursor numbers to kind of lead in to show the customer how this high reading in quarter 2 led to us exceeding the maximum,
Okay.
the Tyler Water Utilities exceeding the maximum contaminant level
Okay.
for haloacetic acids. What I'm going to do is, I know that I've already written this out, but I want to do is explain. I showed you guys the customer the average for that rolling average for quarters 3, 4, 1, and 2, and now what I want to do is show you the quarter 3 2015 results and show you how the average is calculated from that.
Okay.
So we have quarter 4 2014, we had 12.6 parts per billion. Quarter 1 2015, and really I'm just writing what I had up here over, but I wanted to just have 4 readings together so that it's easier on the eyes. Quarter 2 of 2015, we had a reading of 126, and that was that high one again in the May rains. And now what I'm going to do is throw in quarter 3. So here comes along quarter 3 in 2015. So we had that high in quarter 2. And now in quarter 3, we get 92.6 parts per billion. Okay, so the lake is beginning to stabilize. It's starting that long process of stabilizing. Our reading is much less than our quarter 2 2015 result. However, it's still elevated.
Okay.
Okay, so that average, when calculated, the average is 62.3 parts per billion.
Okay.
So in quarter 3 of 2015, this is when we were notified that we had exceeded the maximum contaminant level for haloacetic acids. And it's because of these 2 high quarters here.
Okay.
All right. So now we want to add a 4th. We want to add quarter 4 in 2015 and take a look. what's going on here. So in Q4 of 2015, we got a reading of 63.2 parts per billion. All right, as you can see, we are decreasing from Q2 of 2015 to 126, a 92.6 for Q3 of 2015, and Q4 of 2015 shows a further decline in haloacetic acids. However, the rolling average is then, we take this reading out of the average, and now we're looking at this reading, this reading, this one, and this one.
Okay, so when a new quarter comes up, the old quarter basically sloughs off and is disregarded in subsequent averages.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so the idea of coming into compliance, and the reason why notices have to be submitted once every 90 days until a system comes into compliance, they may show a drastic or significant decline in the numbers. However, until these two quarters drop out of that rolling average, you're likely to still have elevated numbers. Okay? Now, if I take these four and I average these four readings, then my rolling average becomes 74.95 ppb. So the thing that I want customers to know is that although we see this significant decline in single quarter numbers, we've actually gone up in the rolling average because we have these two high quarters that have not rolled out yet.
Okay. And also because like this is a low reading, so we've got a bunch of high readings over here and our low reading is going off, so our averages are looking like they're higher because we have higher numbers to average out and the low ones, but hopefully in subsequent ones it looks like the trend is going lower. So now I understand a locational running average. It's not individual test results from each site that matter. It's basically a rolling calendar years average is what TCEQ is looking for to see if we've met compliance or not.
That's exactly right. And you know, you wouldn't want to just test in Q1 of every year. If you just test in Q1 and you incorporate, you know, you're looking at January, February, and March, you're basically cherry picking results in that quarter, and it's not really representative of your water quality throughout the year.
Okay.
So the standard or the regulations have been based on, the research has been based on that rolling average. That way we can include those seasonal results.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Very welcome.
Okay, we're going to move this out now. Well, thanks for being here, Clayton. That was a very informative session that we had.
Well, thank you for having me. I love to talk about this stuff. I love treating water and protecting public health. And I love to sit and talk about this stuff. I can talk about it all day. If anyone has concerns, they can always feel free to contact me at any time. My number goes on a lot of these notices. They can find my name and also my direct phone number. And if you don't have that number, you can always call someone with the city, and I'm sure that they'll get you to me.
And thank you very much for joining us on a special edition of Tyler Matters. Thank you.